And what a great day it's been out there. And I anticipate that it'll even be greater after our council meeting. How's that? And appreciate the council members joining us this evening. And hopefully we have some public participants with us tonight. We always welcome them. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Councilmember Stoker, I understand you're responsible for invocation, pledge of allegiance, or thought, whatever you've decided you'd like to do this evening.
Okay, we'll do a prayer.
All right.
Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity we have this night to discuss some things that concern the city and our surrounding neighbors. We pray that we will be able to have open minds and that we will listen and hear and be able to discuss it in a manner that is pleasing unto all of us. We're grateful for this great community that we have and for the beauties around us and for the safety that we are blessed with. We ask thee now that thou will be with us as we discuss these things and say it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Okay. John, you could get the flag up there for us. There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Stoker. And I hope we all heard her prayer. Sometimes we hear, but we don't listen. So I think it's important that we try to do that. I will now read the statement that I hope I don't have to read much longer, that we can get together soon and be in person and serve our citizens. So this is the determination of the North Ogden City regarding public meetings without an anchor location. Pursuant to Code Section 59-2-407, the Mayor of North Ogden City hereby determines that conducting an electronic meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based upon the November 8th, 2020 declaration by the governor of the state of Utah regarding the increase in COVID-19 cases and the need for caution in people meeting together. The meeting tonight, February 23rd, 2021, the meeting of the North Ogden City Council will be held electronically and will not have a physical location. All attendees will connect remotely, and links for public participation are available on the North Ogden City website. So hopefully with the cases going down like we're seeing, we can start having an anchor location and maybe have to limit our participation for a while, but that's our hope. So also at this point in time, call for any conflict of interest disclosures that may be perceived or real regarding our agenda this evening. Are there any? Seeing none, then we'll move on to item 3, which is a discussion regarding our January 12th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Hopefully you've had the chance to review those. Are there any questions, corrections that you'd like to discuss at this time? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve those minutes of January 12th, 2021. We have a motion.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve the minutes of January 12, 2021.
Thank you, Councilman Swanson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Ekstrom. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor of the approval of those minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4 on our agenda tonight, which is the approval of the minutes from our January 26th, 2021 City Council meeting. Are there any questions on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'd look for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve January 26, 2021 North Ogden City Council meeting minutes.
Okay, Councilman Severing has made a motion to approve those minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any objections? We'll now move into our active agenda and we'll seek public comments. John and Katie, while you're watching that, I'll just remind those who would like to participate, they would state their full name and their address and limit their comments to no more than 5 minutes. We would appreciate that. So John, at this time, if you see any of the public that would like to make comments, or Katie, if you'd let us know.
Mayor, we have Steve Gibson that would like to make a comment.
Okay, perfect. Let's hear from Steve. Steve, if you state your name and your address, we appreciate it.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Steve Gibson. I live at 3141 North, 325 West in Pleasant View, Utah.
Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thank you so much. Mayor, City Council, I'm on the Pleasant View City Council, and Mayor, as you spoke about before the meeting started, we sent a letter to you, and I think hopefully you have that.
I do.
I'd like to put that into introduce that into the public meeting here today. And I don't know, I don't want to belabor this very long, but would you like me to read that or to state our frustrations?
You can do either, Steve, as long as you limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And we respectfully, this is not anything that we want to have any argument or frustration over, but we respectfully request your consideration to reevaluate the anticipated closure of a portion of Pleasant View Drive. As elected officials, we recognize the safety concerns that have been expressed and are appreciative of the efforts to eliminate the left-hand turn option on Pleasant View Drive to Washington Boulevard going north. Nevertheless, Pleasant View officials and residents have expressed substantial concerns as this street serves as a major artery road to our city and to North Ogden City as well. It's our hope that we work with you and the City Council, Mayor, to explore the possibility of maintaining a safe right turn only option at this location and retain access through Pleasant View Drive. And Mayor, as I think Mayor Cole also spoke to you, we request some dialogue after this meeting, but we wanted to come together, and this is signed Ann Arrington, Steve Gibson, Sarah Uri, and Dave Marriott, 4 of the City Council members. 1 City Council member is enjoying a vacation with the mayor, so he was unable to sign that today. But we just, this is a huge thing for us, and I know, again, it's a safety issue for you as you reconstruct Washington Boulevard and as UDOT does that. I've had a chance to talk to Ryan Barker and Councilwoman Stoker today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for hearing us. I know, no action can be taken today, but we do look forward to some dialogue before it's too late. And I think that's kind of, we were all kind of caught off guard today as to, the direction and different things that are happening with that road. So any questions for me, or is that pretty straightforward?
Oh, we're happy to enter into dialogue, but Steve, I would like to say that I'm a little bit surprised that you were caught off guard. I've had several conversations with your mayor and most recently with the mayor and your city administrator. So I apologize you were caught off guard, but we thought we'd had discussions with the proper individuals. But we will shortly, I'll share that letter with the council if they haven't already seen it. And I think Mayor Call will be back towards the end of the week. And we'd be happy to just make sure we haven't missed anything in our consideration of the decision. And just wanted to point out that that decision was conditional based upon getting a light at the intersection of 2700 and 300 East. We surely want to improve the safety of both those intersections. So I do apologize that you were caught off guard. That wasn't surely our intent, but appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you for your time and your consideration. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Mayor, we now have Brett Hamblin who would like to make a comment.
Yes, this is Brett Hamblin, 963 Deer Meadows Drive. I would like to make a comment in reference to agenda item number 9. I was first made aware of House Bill 98 in a
80,
television
John?
news. Hello? In a
think-
television news report, and then additionally in this morning Standard Examiner. And I'm hoping that this goes like the agenda item is written about a letter opposing this bill. And because I am totally in disagreement with reducing the city's, what I feel is the city's control over and input on new homes and construction. So I'm hoping everyone votes for putting a letter forward in disagreement with House Bill 98. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. And I apologize. My internet kind of went out for a minute, so I was unable to hear you initially. Also, just want to report that I've had conversations with numerous of our legislators to express our objections to this bill. I know that the Utah League of Cities and Towns has been involved in this, and also the various caucuses here in northern Utah. I've had the chance to participate and express our objections. So just a bit of information there. I understand it's being modified to give some leeways to the cities. We'll see the final bill. I haven't seen it yet, but I think it is being modified.
Mayor, we have Ann Arrington that would like to make a comment.
All right, Ann, if you would state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Ann Arrington. I live at 3256 North, 750 West in Pleasant View. I'm also on the Pleasant View City Council as well. And I just wanted to echo some of what Council Member Steve Gibson said, that, you know, Pleasant View as a sister city is asking you to seriously reconsider closing Pleasant View Drive. We use that access a lot. And I understand safety issues. If we could just keep a right-hand turn there, that would mean all the world to us in Pleasant View. And I also just want to express my concern that if we put a light on 2700 West at 300, I just feel like that's going to turn into, for me, I need North Ogden to I-15 to be a nice corridor to get there. The more lights we put along there, the harder it is to move people through. And I think it'll end up looking like a Riverdale road. So I don't feel like the safety trade-off of a left-hand turn for us from 300 onto 2700 is a great solution. So I just wanted to voice my concern and also say that, you know, we'd really like to see that Pleasant View Drive remain open. The other thing is I just have a quick question. Did you, as a North Ogden City Council and Mayor, did you know that our official position was opposed to the closing Pleasant View Drive?
No, because I had conversations with your mayor and he gave me no indication that that was the case. And
Okay.
just for your information, our general plan has shown that a road closed since 2015 as part of our general plan. So I'm a little bit surprised that the council was caught off guard.
I'm
Because
not necessarily saying I'm caught off guard. The mayor came to us and asked us a few months ago what our opinion was, and we all unanimously expressed concern that we wanted to keep it open. And so somewhere that communication is broken down from what we as a council expressed to you guys. So I'm not going to say where that broke down or what, but we just, yeah, I think that's a huge disservice to a sister city to cut us down like that. So I hope you'll reconsider.
we will, part of our objective is, and just so you know, is we believe that that's unsafe there at the exit out of the Lee's Marketplace. We've already had one of our citizens' wives killed exiting out of that. I noticed there's another light down there in the Pleasantview side there by the emergency exit. So I don't think we're overly concerned about putting a light there, but we'll surely consider your letter, and we just want to make sure that we've considered everything and haven't overlooked anything. So more than happy to make sure we haven't done that.
Thank you.
Mayor Dave Marriott would like to make a comment.
Okay, Dave, welcome.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
We can, Dave. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Mayor Berube and Council, for taking our comments. I know it adds a lot of length to your meeting when that happens, but just felt strongly that we needed to voice some opinion today. My name is Dave Marriott. I am a former resident of North Ogden City. Currently live in Pleasantview City at 3420 North, 1100 West. And I, as well as I am on the city council. I just want to echo the comments both from the two former comments here from our city that I have serious concerns with closing that at the end of Pleasantview Drive off. I know there are North Ogden City residents that are surprised that is happening and are very concerned. They live on Pleasantview Drive. And I also know that there are businesses that are extremely concerned about closing that, and including Lee's Market. And I don't feel like that they have had a voice at this discussion. So I echo everything that's been said about it. And I strongly encourage you to reconsider it and to involve more of the residents and Pleasantview in this discussion. We'd be glad to talk at a later time about it. So thank you,
Dave?
Yeah.
Could I just ask a question, who you've talked to at Lee's Marketplace? Because I've personally had discussions with them.
Okay, yeah, I talked to Jeff Price. He is the manager of Lee's Market. Mm-hmm. And today when I talked to him, so I've seen the drawings of the changes to the intersection of 27 and 2600 and Washington, and the markings on the closed there are not part of the formal drawing that's on it. And it kind of surprised Jeff. He thought it was going to be a temporary change. But when I mentioned that I thought it was because the park was going to be increased in size, that was the concern, and the safety issues, he was unaware of that and was very, very frustrated by it, and said he was going to continue to talk to his management, his owners. So I also know there are other businesses around there that have access or that don't have access other than Pleasantview Drive that are concerned as well. So yeah, I just think it needs more vetting and it needs more discussion, and there are options if we allow some discussion to make it a safe intersection, as well as make it convenient for both North Ogden and Pleasantview City residents. I would really hate for Pleasantview residents not to do business in North Ogden. They like going to North Ogden, they do business there, and if that gets shut off, it's going to be more difficult for them to do business, and they may not likely go there. So that's all my comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dave, thanks for joining us. And just one other comment. You know, we have had in-depth discussions with the dentist and the veterinarian office there. Just want to let you know that we didn't do this haphazardly. And I'll be happy to have a conversation with Jeff and their management team. I know them quite well, and I hope they understand that one of the reasons people don't like shopping at Lee's is because it's so dangerous getting in and out of the parking lot there. So, but we'll have further discussion with them.
Yeah,
Also,
Mayor. Yeah, one comment about that. I do think what you're doing at the intersection is making it much more safe. I think there's a huge safety issue with every one of the stores, including Smith's and all those, getting in and out of those as well. And I think you're going to improving that right now. So I think this could be part of the solution too, is making this a safe part of getting in and out of Pleasant View Drive. So,
thanks for your comments, Dave, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Mayor Sarah Yuri would like to make a comment.
Okay, welcome, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Yuri. I'm a resident of Pleasant View and my address is 930 West, 3550 North. I'm also a fellow council member with Dave and Steve and Ann, and I echo their comments and the sentiments that they have shared with you and your council. And I appreciate you allowing us to have a place at your table tonight. Like Ann has stated, the only mention of the closure of Pleasant View Drive that was brought to us was, it was a question, it was not a done deal, it was not a, this is what's happening, this is what they are considering. And it was brought to our council and to our attention and asked what our thoughts were. And unanimously, like she stated, we said that would not be in the best interest of Pleasant View or North Ogden, and we unanimously were against it. And so again, I don't know where the breakdown happened of why it was conveyed to your council and administration that somehow we agreed to that. As we know, it is your decision, being as that end of the road is in your city. But some of the things that I have a concern about is we're a sister city. We shop and dine in your city, and we're so grateful for that. We would love to have commerce here as well. We spend a lot of money and provide a lot of nice tax base to your city for the things that you need. And closing off the end of Pleasant View Drive as a major artery would be detrimental to our city as well as I think yours. And forcing us off onto 300 West when there's not a guaranteed light there, or the road hasn't been, improved to align with the other side of 2600, and forcing a left-hand turn within yards of another. It is 1,000 feet, but that's 300 yards of another stoplight. As for me, to turn right onto 300 West, to wait at a light to turn on to 2600, to only wait at another light to turn right, I'll be honest with you, I'll cut across Lee's Marketplace parking lot any day, and that's already a huge hazard, and you're going to compound the traffic there exponentially. You absolutely will. And forcing a right-hand turn onto Washington Boulevard would be, at least from what I have talked with engineers in the last 2 days, because we just barely found out about this on a Facebook post that this was being considered, or it would make more sense to keep the traffic flowing and moving rather than forcing it onto a busy intersection to turn left where most people won't wait. And so we would just love to have a place at your table, please, to have that discussion and, potentially find a better solution to this situation with North Ogden and Pleasant View.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for your comments.
Mayor, we have Brenda Ashdown would like to make a comment.
All right, welcome, Brenda.
Brenda Ashdown, 193 East Pleasant View Drive. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and I hope that I do it respectfully. First of all, not so respectfully, I feel like Dave Marriott's comments were a threat, and I am offended by that, and I do not appreciate that. Living on Pleasant View Drive, driving this road, driving the end of Pleasant View, yes, you make it a right-hand turn, that's great, but if I want to go up Washington, I have to go over, I'm still going to have to go to 300 East to 2600 and turn left, and then turn left at the light. It's not putting any business out. You can go down 300 and pull into the parking lot behind Lee's that will get you to any of those businesses. The parking for the doctor and the veterinarian and the dentist has been worked out so that they will have access to their parking lot and their business. There are no other businesses on Pleasant View Drive that are going to be hurt by blocking the end of that road. And as I said before, you close Pleasant View Drive, there has to be a light on 300. And as far as putting that light on 300 and 2600, the speed limit is only supposed to be 40. So we're not interfering with the speed limit or the direct line out to the freeway. You have a street across the street that goes down past the car parts, that if you've ever tried or seen anybody try to get across that road to get down there, that's ridiculous. I think the safety issue, I think they're missing the point, because you're only going to be able to turn right. That's still, you're not, are you going to turn left to go on to Pleasant View Drive? That's as much the safety issue as turning left off of Pleasant View Drive. If you're on Washington and you're going to sit at Pleasant View Drive to try to turn left, you still have the problem of the Lee's Market in whatever it's called, the in thing where you can go there just past Pleasant View Drive. You're still going to have that. People trying to turn left from Washington to Pleasant View Drive are still going to have to pass through 2 lanes coming down. I'm a little bit, I understand that they are a sister city. This has been on the general plan. I'm a little bit bothered that they feel that they can come in and after the work has been done and decided what's going to be done with that corner and all the consideration taken with the veterinarian and the dentist. And my understanding of the last meeting, they were okay with the change as far as their parking lot access, that this sister city is going to complain about it. And for Mr. Marriott to say that Pleasant View people are no longer going to shop in North Ogden because we stopped this road. I mean, how I can tell you of many developments that people have not wanted, but if they want to go, it was the same with McDonald's. We don't want McDonald's. We hate it. It's not going to be there. We're never going to use it. Look how busy McDonald's is. I don't think that's a fair threat on his part. I appreciate that you will have the interest in sitting down and discussing with them. I think that's great, but I really think when it comes down to the bottom line, the city council needs to consider our road work, our city safety, and in the end, when there is a light on 300 and 2600, everybody's going to go that way because it's going to be so much easier to turn on a light than it is to not. Sorry. I have one more question. Why, when we make statements, do we have to give our address?
Just in case we want to come by and thank you.
Or somebody who disagrees with me wants to egg my house?
We'll look into that and find out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's my 2 bits. You knew that was coming, I'm sure. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Brenda, for attending. We always welcome your comments. And you know, one thing that I don't know if our friends from Pleasant View are still with us. One of the considerations too is the need we have for additional park space with the growth of our city. And the drawing may not show that, but ultimately, one of our considerations that we talked about was extending the Bicentennial Park, giving us more park space. So, but we'll sit down and make sure we haven't missed anything in our analysis and take a look at it.
Mayor Stephanie Casey has a comment.
Okay, Stephanie Casey.
Stephanie Casey, 2444 Barker Parkway, North Ogden. I just wanted to make a comment and tell Brenda thank you, first of all, because I was sitting here listening to what felt like a gang up from our sister city council members. I appreciate, their input and getting involved, but that was just like one after the other. And we've been having these discussions in our city council meetings, having in-depth discussions with businesses around there. And I feel the same about Dave Marriott's comments. For our city, we've discussed this. I'm on the committee that's discussing the park and expanding that. And that is just a real benefit to to the members of the community, and safety is big. And anyway, I wanted to show support for Brenda for speaking up, and I agree 100% with what she said, and that's basically it. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Stephanie.
Mayor, there are not any other public comments at this time.
Okay. We'll wait just a minute to see if someone else joins in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Katie. And thanks for those who gave us some input and comments this evening. Always welcome to join us. We'll now go to item 6 on our agenda. Our presenter will be John Call, who is our city manager and attorney, and he will discuss with us tonight an action to approve Golden West Credit Union as a broker for employee benefit services. John, would you like to move forward?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Council, we have recently sent out a request for proposals looking for a broker to help us in providing medical and dental and other type of benefits to our employees. We received several responses, and after some interviews and lots of discussion, the recommendation was to go with Golden West Credit Union. They have a nonprofit group that handles their benefits for themselves, as well as some other organizations in the area and across the state. A good example is Ogden City currently uses them. And we've talked with the folks at Ogden and have been, anyways, the recommendation is to use them. They will be essentially the bulldog in our corner as we go and start negotiating the medical rates, the medical insurance costs and dental costs and others for the upcoming fiscal year, and for the next 5 years is the length that we're looking at. But we do want to make sure the council provides some approval for this, and then we will execute the necessary documents to take them on as our broker. The city doesn't pay them directly. If you've ever dealt with medical insurance brokers, typically they are compensated by the actual insurance carriers. It's a pretty much an industry standard. And so the cost to the city is minimal, but we look at the type of programs, the relationships, and other things that brokers can offer as we're doing that selection. So, and any questions about that process or any comments that the council has for?
Any questions, council?
I'd just like to have a statement of support of Golden West. I worked with them when I was on another nonprofit board when I was the treasurer, and they were really good to work with. I really liked them.
Thank you, Councilmember Ekstrom. John did some great due diligence on this, and we had 4 entities we were looking at and considering. Our current broker, I think we've been with 11 years. As we spoke with Ogden City, they were very favorable to Golden West, as they indicated how they had saved a significant amount of money and some things they'd benefited from. So are there any further questions on that? So if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve Golden West as the city's broker for employee benefits. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve Golden West Credit Union as the broker for our city employee benefits.
Thank you, Councilmember Ekstrom. Do we have a second?
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Is there any further discussion, questions? John, do you feel we need
I don't think it's necessary. We do plan on bringing the actual contract back for the council to approve. So we could do a voice vote to approve this, and then bring back the contract for the actual roll call vote.
All right, all those in favor then of approving Golden West as the city's broker for benefits, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you, council. We'll now move on to item number 7. John Call will also present regarding our recommendation to continue and extend the contract with Olympus Insurance as our risk management group. So, John?
Thanks, Mayor. So again, council, this was a similar process. It's just the other side of insurance, which is the commercial insurance. We made the change to Olympus a couple of years ago. We like to regularly go out to RFP so that it's clear that the city is engaging the industry in a way that doesn't feel laxed or repetitive. Olympus has some speciality in the municipal insurance realm that we found very helpful, some in-depth knowledge. There are some things that are coming up in the municipal realm that we think they'll be able to help us navigate. For example, there's quite a bit of talk about police liability claims that'll be coming that direction. On that, as a side note, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the idea of removing qualified immunity for police officers has been eliminated from the set of bills for the Utah legislature is reviewing this year. But that's the type of stuff that those changes in the industry that are at the state level or at the national level are one of those things that we think Olympus will really help us with. We did receive several responses for this RFP, and again, went through those, did some interviews and things for those entities that responded in the way that we had anticipated, with full proposals. And the staff is recommending that we continue with Olympus for the next several years. I think that the one question that I posed in the staff report is exactly how many years the council would like to. The staff recommends that we do at least 2. Our code requires us to not go more than 5 with a 2-year extension. And I think that we'd probably recommend the 3 to 5 year range as an appropriate range for this commercial contract.
Thank you, John. If I could just add a little bit to that. I think 3 years, council, if you agree, would be adequate. I can just tell you in my experience that sometimes, and I'm not saying that's the case here, but sometimes those we work with get a little bit comfortable with us, and it's always good to make sure we have options. How long have we been with Olympus, John?
So we're going just on the 5-year range.
So this would, if we go 3 years, would put us at 8?
Yes.
8 years. I think a lot can change in 3 years. So, but council, do you have any questions for John or recommendations regarding length of time or?
John?
All right.
I do have a quick question.
Okay, Councilman Severing.
How's our loss runs the last couple of years? Have we had any losses?
Well, I'll let John pipe in that, but we've had 2 major claims. Councilman Severing, one was, I believe, one of our enterprise funds employees hit a motorcycle. And also we had a slip and fall over at the amphitheater that resulted in some fairly large claims. So you put that on top of the fact that insurance companies are dramatically increasing premiums. I know in my prior employment, we had a massive increase just because of all the losses insurance companies are taking. But we have had 2 significant liability claims. Is that correct, John?
That is, and we've had several other smaller claims, from minor fender benders and other type accidents. One of the things that we've enjoyed with the program that Olympus has helped us create is with our risk management, helping us do some facility walkthroughs and things like that, that have really made a difference. We actually just completed an OSHA audit, not a full bore. They knock on the door unexpectedly, but one where you can kind of volunteer to bring them in. And we got glowing reviews from the OSHA inspector. They still had a few things they'd like us to fix, but they were minor things, no major issues. And in fact, I believe Public Works has already fixed all those items, or it wasn't Public Works by themselves, but they took the lead on the inspection. So they've taken the lead on getting the departments to fix those items, so that we're good to go if they ever come back. But we've had nothing but gold stars given to us by the inspector to, partly because of the risk management committee and the program that Olympus helped us put together.
John, I would
So
add
we're
to
still in-
that because of our good team members who are very conscientious about what they do. But John came to me and he said, "See, Mayor, this is proof that you can say I'm with the government and I'm here to help you."
So we're still with a preferred market though, right? We're not down into surplus lines. We're preferred still.
I believe so. Another example is our E-mod for our workers' comp is in I believe it's 0.66 or it's 0.61. So we've been actually quite successful in our in what we typically group as our commercial insurance.
Okay. Are there any other questions, council? If not, then I'd be looking for a motion to extend the contract for whatever period of time whoever makes the motion wants to include. So do we have a motion?
What's the agreement number?
John, do we have an agreement number? Because this is an extension. I don't see it on the information I was sent.
We do. It's something I didn't show Katie, so that's my fault for not showing her how to do that.
No problem.
It would be agreement A3 2021.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve agreement A3-2021, renewing our agreement with Olympus Insurance Agency for the period of 2 years.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Swanson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Stoker,
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
and Councilmember Ekstrom.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. You can tell the staff has been busy with the number of RFPs are out. We've got several more we're waiting for responses on. I just want to compliment them for their great due diligence and the ability to participate and help in discussion. So great work by the team. We'll now move on to item number 8. Evan Nelson, our finance director, will be talking with us about our 2022 budget, which is just around the corner. And I think he'd like to introduce that and maybe have some brief discussion. So Evan.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm thankful to be with you tonight and kick off our budget process for the fiscal year 2022 budget. We generally have a brief discussion with the council to give you an opportunity to communicate any priorities or projects that you have on your minds. Give us some direction as we're starting to put together some proposals. I'd like to walk through a couple of things on that were included in the packet. If you could, thank you, that's perfect right there. So this is just a 2-page handout related to the budget to give a summary of what we do and what we're working on. The budget is the city's financial plan to provide services and build and maintain facilities and infrastructure for the fiscal year, including estimates of revenues and authorization of expenditures. So it effectively becomes a legal document that we use where the city is authorized to expend public funds. We have the total dollar amount there, $29.28 million is the total budgeted expenditures for the current fiscal year. And then there's a pie graph that shows how that's divided out across various funds, just for your information. Let's talk about just a summary of a city fund. On the right side is the list of city funds. The general fund is probably the one we spend the most time talking about. And then the utility funds, water, sewer, storm, and solid waste. But you can see we have quite a few other funds as well. Some of these are fairly minor, but a fund is a tool for tracking revenues, expenditures, assets, and balances that have a common purpose. We've compared that to a reservoir in the past. You can see the revenues come down, fill the reservoir, and then expenditures is the outflow, and whatever's left in the reservoir is the fund balance. We work to try to maintain some balances in our funds, so we're not spending everything we receive. And also we save money for future capital projects. So that's just a visual representation, but it's also to make the point that the revenues and expenditures in the funds, in most cases, are specified for particular uses. So there's a fund balance in the water fund that's kept separate from the fund balance in the sewer fund, and so forth, so that the revenues we receive are used for their intended purposes. In that diagram up above where it says, what is your role? We want to acknowledge that the money that we're talking about in the budget is public money, and the city council has a legal responsibility to oversee the expenditure of the public money we receive, and the council authorizes the expenditure of those dollars. City staff provides information, projections, recommendations, and we provide many opportunities throughout this process for the public to take part in the budget process. We recognize that the money that we're talking about is money that the public, the residents, have paid and will pay in taxes and other fees. And so we welcome that input, and we look forward to the public participating in the process. At the end of the day, regardless of what the staff or the public say, it's up to the city council to make decisions, though, on how this money is spent, representing the community as a whole, not necessarily only those that show up in public meetings. But I know the council tries really hard to represent the community and make good decisions with the money that we receive. So hopefully we can all fulfill our roles the best that we can and understand the role that we're expected to fill. If you could scroll up to the page just above, we'll take a look at the budget calendar. So today's February 23rd, our budget introduction. Our first big meeting on the budget with the city council is on April 13th. In that meeting, we'll focus a lot on the general fund, the capital improvement funds, the Aquatic Center Fund, the RDA and CDA funds, and the motor pools. We'll also plan to have some information related to employee benefits, such as insurance, retirement, and those kind of things, so that we can explain those proposals to the council with reliable numbers on what we expect to see for those costs. Then the next meeting is May 4th, and that meeting will focus on the utility funds and utility rates that are related to those funds. Our tentative budget needs to be adopted by May 11th. So we have that on the agenda there. And the tentative budget is tentative. It can be changed, but it's a place for the council to approve something and for the public to have a chance to review that. And then we have a required budget public hearing on May 25th, where anybody that would like to comment will have an opportunity to do so. And then we'll propose a final adoption on June 8th. If the council needs more time than that, we have to adopt it by the end of June for sure, but we have it scheduled for June 8th. I'm hoping that we can have everything together by that point. So there's a summary of the calendar. And then I also just wanted to mention, today we received our sales tax reports for revenues generated in the month of December. And I sent that report out to the council just within the last hour or so. And the trends are continuing very strong. Let me pull that up on my screen here. So we are 18.4% or just under $300,000 ahead of last year's revenues, which is really a big deal. In the past, we would expect to see maybe a 5%, maybe a 6% increase year over year. And so what we're seeing this year is far above and beyond what we've ever seen in the past. Obviously, a lot of this is due to the COVID pandemic, and it'll be interesting for us to figure out how to project these trends into the future, because we don't know how that's going to look, but that's the task that we have. And then we're $350,000 ahead of our current year projections. And that's with the most recent budget amendments factored into the equation. So with those amendments we just recently did, the council authorized expenditure of some of the surplus that we have been seeing. But even with those amendments factored in, we're still $350,000 ahead of what we are expecting in our general fund budget for sales tax. So that's really good news. We're happy to see how that trend is going. I looked at a report from the University of Utah. They do an annual economic report to the governor, and they have a projection. They project many things, but the one I tend to look at is the sales tax projection. And they're projecting about a 6% increase in sales tax. They look at calendar years. So from calendar year 2020 to 2021, they're projecting about a 6% increase. So which is still a very positive trend. Anyway, so that's a summary. We would like to ask the council for any input that you have on the budget, and specifically would also like to get some input related to compensation and the city's approach to compensation in the budget.
Hey, Evan, this is Mayor Berube.
Yes.
I believe if the numbers you talked to me about earlier today, we were up in December, was it 10 or 12% over the prior year? Up like 30 something thousand
In sales tax?
in sales tax this December versus last December.
Oh,
My point being that we're up 18%, I think, in the year, but I think we're seeing the trend starting to settle down a little bit. Is that true? The increase isn't as great as it was earlier on.
in the report, so July was 17% higher, August was 17% higher, September was 27, October was 9, then November was 28, December's about 12%. So it's kind of all over the board.
Okay. All right. Evan asked for some input. Specific, Evan, you're looking for information on compensation philosophy, and what else would you like the council to give you input on?
Yeah, so related to compensation, last year the city took a very conservative approach due to the pandemic, but prior to that we had targeted I think 90% of the average or the midpoint when we compare salaries to other cities. And we've made some targeted increases where specific positions were being paid much lower than that target. So we're interested to hear if the council wants to continue that sort of an approach. And then also if there's an across the board merit or COLA sort of increase that should be considered or included in the proposals. Besides compensation, if there are specific projects that are very important to you, it would be helpful for us to hear about those, just so we can know what you feel is especially important for the budget.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Barker.
Question for Evan, and we just approved raises in the last council meeting. We didn't do a COLA this year, did we?
No.
Then I would make a recommendation that we approve a COLA as well as merit, market wage adjustments, whatever's needed for at least COLA citywide. I think that'd be, if we can make that work. And then the other thing that I want to talk about has to do a lot with item 9 on our agenda. So I don't know if you want me to bring it up now or when we get to that item.
Why don't we wait till we get to that item, Councilman Barker?
That works for me.
Mayor.
Councilman Swanson.
With Councilman Barker, I think a COLA and merit increases are something to be looked at seriously this year. I am still very much of a mind to maintain a retract and retain salary philosophy, which means we're going to be on that higher end so that we keep the good employees that we have and we attract good employees from other places rather than losing them to other places. The other piece that I'd like for us to see, and it may not be something that we can do, but I think we ought to have our eye on it, is to spend some money on the amphitheater to get any kind of lighting and sound that we can to continue to make that thing more usable so that it becomes a place of use and generation of funds, if at all possible, versus just sitting there waiting for us to finish it.
Thanks, Councilman Swanson. I've been working with some folks in the city. I would prefer first, based upon the other commitments we have, particularly with public safety, until we make a decision there, I'd like to see the money raised privately. Give that an attempt first before we start spending city money. Just my opinion, but I think we ought to first tap that market to see what we can do with some private funds that might be able to be raised. I just don't think we're in a position to move forward on both of those. Also, I would just throw out, and I agree, we want to attract and retain quality employees. I call it the squirrel cage effect. Every time we increase our wages, other cities are thinking the same thing, right? So we just get into this circular motion. And once again, if you look at a compensation that's based upon market rate of pay, if there is a COLA increase that's moving in the market, that automatically happens because the market moves that way. Once again, I think as long as we're paying our employees competitively with good benefits, that our strategy has to be, one of attract and retain. But I think you just create inflationary wages by just automatically setting some arbitrary COLA. Just my opinion. I'm all in favor of paying our team members to retain their services and to attract. But that's why we do kind of market studies. Just
Evan?
Yes.
This is Councilman Severing. I haven't heard, maybe you would know better, but I know we really tried to focus, I think last year, on getting all of the parks and the infrastructure at the parks all up and functioning. Do we have any parks that have needs? Bathrooms are all functioning, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I know that we completed the bathroom project and there was a renovation of one of the football fields. I'm confident that Tiffany probably has a list of improvements she would like to see. I haven't reviewed that yet. So the departments have been working on their proposals for the budget, and we're starting to compile those together. So that's a good question that we probably ought to ask Tiffany for some more information on.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see within reason that we have all of the parks functioning successfully, and we don't have any particular issues there that would be, counterproductive for the citizens to enjoy the parks. So that would just be something that I would emphasize. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Blake.
Well, how nice. Can I jump in there too? Like everybody's arguing for my department. Yay!
Go ahead, Council. Go ahead, Councilmember Ekstrom. You have some comments?
One of the needs I know that Tiffany has expressed to me is for storage. She's running low on storage. Just as our city expands, we have more things. I was walking over in the amphitheater and we've got a whole bunch of Christmas decorations stored at the amphitheater. I don't want the amphitheater to become a storage unit. So that would be high on my priority there. Again, when I think about North Ogden, I want to establish, our identity as a city, right? We're a city that values our residents, we value our employees, and I think investing in them is just good policy. I think when we have our employees paid on the generous side of fair, and mostly that I think also we want to make sure we're listening to them and that we're good stewards over their employment. That's really important. We're a community that values the arts. We're a community that values connection, that we really invest in these things. And that really makes me happy to hear Councilmember Swanson and Severing, understanding that investing in our Parks and Rec department is wise. So again, I think the one priority that I heard from Tiffany that she would really like is more storage, but I'm sure she, as Don pointed out, she does have a list. So yeah, that would be great.
Any other input?
My turn.
Okay. Councilmember Stoker, go ahead.
Of course, like you mentioned, Mayor, my priority would be with the police department and doing what we can and need to get the public safety building built. And also seeing that our officers have within reason what they need and are equipped with. So I would like to see, I'm always interested to see what is needed in that department.
Okay, thank you. Any other input for Evan tonight, council? Evan, do you need anything else from us?
I think that's a great start. We appreciate your guidance, and we'll be working to put the numbers together and prepare information for your review and further input. So I think we're off to a good start, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Evan, for your presentation and your work. And I know this is a big portion of your responsibilities and that you take it seriously. So thank you very much. And I think getting data put together for the council to review in regards to, what some of these things, the effect on the budget and where the money will come from and how much, it means in regards to the things we want to do would be helpful as we analyze this. So if you could do that, and I think the more information, and I'm confident we have Council Member Swanson, whose assignment is to coordinate this effort, and I have confidence in him that he'll get the information that the council needs to make wise decisions. So appreciate that. All right, Evan, anything else we can help you with? I'll take that as a no. And we'll move on to item number 9. And Councilmember Barker has requested that we have a discussion about House Bill 98. So Councilman Barker, do you want to lead out, please?
Sure. And I'm gonna ask that John helps me if I miss anything, because this is kind of a big bill. As it's been noted, I brought this up from the first we heard about it back in January, that this is a problem bill, and that has now gone through a couple amendments. It's changed a little bit. I've been in contact with some of the council members from West Haven, and they're the ones that wrote the letter that was in the Standard Examiner. I voiced my opposition as well, and I signed their statement saying that I'm opposed to this. As a city council, I think this is something that we should be opposing, and then we should be sending this letter to the governor and the House, Senate, who are representatives, to let them know that we are not in favor of this bill. The issues that arise, and I've spoken with John at length about this. Right now, there is a law that says when developers drop off their plans, they have 14 days to get them reviewed, or else they'll just use the engineer stamp on them. That's not going to change. In this bill, it says after 14 days, then they can get use their own engineer stamp or their own architect, which nothing's going to change there. The issue comes where now they're proposing that if we are not able to do a building inspection in 3 days of them requesting it, they can get their own inspector. And this is where I think the concern and issues arise. If they get the first inspector to come in, is it going to go to our inspectors to go in afterward and catch future mistakes, or are we just going to have them do private inspections for the rest of the building? And I know myself, and I've seen our building inspectors, we go out and we can look at stamp plans. When I do an inspection, I catch a lot of mistakes, a lot of times that engineers and architects are not catching, and also that the contractors aren't catching. This is where I'm thinking that maybe for our budget, we need to hire either another inspector or a plans examiner, because right now we do have issues getting that 3-day window met. And a lot of the issues arise on the developer's part. They'll call our city and schedule 2 or 3 inspections for the same thing, because they're not sure if they'll be ready for the first inspection. But if they're not ready for the first one, they want to have the second inspection lined up. And so they're filling up our calendars. So we either need to address that they can only schedule one inspection at a time. But I also think we need another inspector, and that's going to be one of my budget requests, is that we get an inspector / plans examiner so that can help us further along with this department. John, did I miss anything or anything you want to expound on?
I think you hit it exactly on the head, exactly what we're focused on with this bill and why this request is here. Universally, all the city managers are opposed to it. I will say that they are looking at some compromises. The original version of the bill said basically the home inspectors could just start using, or the home builders could use a home inspector from the get-go. They didn't have to use the city at all. And so it's been pared back a little bit from there, as Councilman Barker mentioned. But it's problematic. I will tell you my opinion, whether it's honest or not, I think it's honest, is it's being passed under the guise of housing affordability. My biggest concern is these private inspectors will not be covered by government immunity, which means they're going to need substantial insurance policies, which means inspections will be more expensive, which means houses will be more expensive. But that's just my opinion. So I think, but other than that, I think Councilman Barker has a ton of experience being the fire marshal and spending so much time with our inspectors that he is he's exactly right.
John, I know we're making some moves to try to get caught up, and 3 days is going to be tough. No doubt about that. But I know that we're making some moves to try to do that. I think this just shows one of the problems I believe we have in the city overall, that we're so small in regards to the number of team members that we lack cross training, and we don't have the ability to adjust when we see peaks and valleys. And I think that really needs to be looked at, about how we can get more cross training to our team members in the city without breaking the bank, so to speak. So I believe you've invited one of our retired inspectors back, and we're working on some of the things Ryan talked about. Is that correct, John?
Yeah. So one of our recently retired inspectors is here doing plan checks to get us caught up. And then also we have 3 employees who have indicated an interest in getting inspection certificates. They wouldn't be full-time inspectors at this time, but they'd be available if we needed them in a pinch, or if one of our inspectors got sick. But exactly what you just said, Mayor, after conversations we've had, that we're moving forward with trying to fix that gap in cross-training as best we can.
Yeah, I think that's surely a strategy we need to pursue, because, you know, being the size of city we are, we don't have duplicate people and a lot of backup, but we have some capacity where people can be trained and step in when needed. So, Councilman Barker, do you have anything else to add?
I know I've mentioned before, the state fire marshals as the association and the state fire marshal's office, they're all opposed to this bill as well. And there's numerous organizations throughout the state that are opposed.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor,
pretty much everyone except homeowner or home builders.
Councilman Swanson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, a couple. There's one, it's interesting to note that the sponsor of this bill, Representative Paul Ray, is also the CEO of the Northern Wasatch Home Builders Association. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought about that tonight as you had a call at the beginning of our meeting for conflicts of interest. And I'm thinking, how is this not a conflict of interest on his part, being where he is employed as CEO and then pushing through a bill like this? I think the other note of interest on this bill that I don't think is quite as dire as the inspection piece, which we are rightly focusing on, is that it also would prohibit municipalities from requiring certain materials and things like that in the use. So it would in effect eliminate our ability as North Ogden City to use a development agreement to have a developer use, like we did at Prominence Point, to use certain materials and certain upgraded features to keep the project nice down the road. That would be prohibited. So we wouldn't be able to do that either. This is just all around a bad bill that smells of incredibly deep pocketed lobbying. And it bothers me really, really bad.
Oh, and as you know, Councilmember Swanson, a good number of the legislators are developers,
Yep.
builders, realtors. In fact, I almost got out of my chair when I heard one of the leaders in the legislature indicate that the reason house prices were so expensive is because of the delay in permitting and inspections. At the same time, they're just making huge, huge profits. And you're right. This is kind of being done under the affordable housing guise, right? That this will make housing more affordable, along with, internal auxiliary dwelling units. And but it does, because the builders then could do whatever they wanted with materials. And if you look at a lot of things that are going on, it's taking a lot of authority away from local officials who know their community probably better than somebody not living in their community. And there's a number of bills that seem to be moving that direction to consolidate authority. I hate to use that word, but into a central place versus letting communities develop their own culture. And I understand that, we're not trying to price anybody out and be over selective of who moves into our city. That's not our attempt, but we sure want to have some control over what takes place in our city. And the biggest problem I have, as I talked to Councilman Barker about this, is what protection is the consumer getting when there's a conflict or there's not independent? That's like asking you, Phil, to issue our audit report on our financial statements. There's this thing called independence that protects the consumer. So, but anyway, back to our conversation. There's a letter here that's being proposed that each one of us sign. Hope you've had a chance to maybe look at that. The question I would have is a motion. Do we have a motion to approve this letter and send it to the governor?
Mayor, I move that we approve this letter and send it to the governor. I will gladly put my name and signature to that letter.
All right, Councilmember Ekstrom, thank you for that motion. Do we have a second?
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Severing. Is there any further discussion? I know this isn't required, but I'd like to maybe take a roll call vote here, since we're asking everyone to put their signature on this. Councilman Barker, are you okay with signing the letter?
Yes.
Councilman Severing?
Yes.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker?
Yes.
And I assume since the motion was made by Councilmember Ekstrom, she's willing to sign.
Yes.
So with that, John, if you would make the letter available for council members to sign, and let's get that off. And once again, I will continue and encourage all of you to contact your representative and others in the legislature that can address this issue. Hopefully they will hear our voices and make the proper modifications and to the bill. So, all right.
And Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Barker.
Are you willing to sign it as well?
Well, I'll probably just put my stamp on it because I have sometimes a hard time spelling my name. But yes.
No, you asked us if we're signing it, and your name's there too. So.
Yes, I will sign it, Councilmember Barker. Might be with an X, but yes, I will sign it.
That's all right.
All right, good. Let's go on to item number 10 then. This is an action to consider an appointment to the Economic Development Committee. I've had discussion with the chairman of that committee, Terry Bexell. One of the members that asked to serve has had some things come up, so we would release Bruce Sherrod from the committee and would recommend that we appoint in his place a gentleman by the name of Dave Meents. I believe Dave owns the building where CrossFit is and is involved in the city. He's been a long time resident of the city. And so that would be my recommendation. Happy to answer any questions or concerns. If there are none, then I would seek a motion then to appoint David Meents as a member of the Economic Development Committee. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve Dave Means. I move that we approve Dave Means to be on the Economic Development Committee.
Okay. Place that
Second.
motion on the table. We have a second by Councilmember Swanson. Is there any questions or further discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to take a roll call vote on that also, if we may. Councilmember Ekstrom,
Yes.
Councilmember Stoker,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I'll report that to Mr. Bexell, and we'll invite Mr. Meents to serve on the committee. We'll now go on to item number 11, looking for some department reports. We'll start with Councilmember Stoker to have her give us an update on her assignment with the police department. Councilmember Stoker?
Hi. See if I can put myself on screen. I don't know how to do that. So they can see me. I can
Just
see
go
my
down to the
little.
little camera and click on it. It says start video.
Okay, there I are. There I am. Okay, so I'm happy to report that I've quit bugging the police department with cars ending up in my yard. We decided to put a dirt pile at the side of our house, and it has deterred about 7 cars from entering into my yard this winter. So that's given them an opportunity to focus on with the personnel and things that need to be going on in their department. And since November, they've hired we've had 2 officers retire, 1 officer resigned, and we did approve add-ons. So they've been busy with hiring process. They've had filled out the 2 of these positions, but 1. And our 2 new officers are in field training and 1 is in the police academy. And they are hoping to have the final vacancy filled by March. They've also decided to, the code enforcement officer has resigned last December. And so they're in the process of hiring replacements, but animal control code enforcements and our evidence tech have been combined into 1 division, and they are calling it the community service. So combining these duties will enable the division to work more as a team, providing extending coverage for enforcement and running more efficiently. So if you see a vehicle in town that says community service officer, you know that's what they are. And we are internally filling 2 spots in investigations. One of our we were replacing 1 Detective Rhodes who retired, and the other we'll be filling the vacancy left when we had to send an officer for 2 years for the Weber Morgan Narcotics Strike Force. So they will be conducting that selection process next week. And also, again, a word of warning from them, and to remind us with warmer weather coming up, we will see probably an uprising in property crimes. So please make sure that everything's locked up, your vehicles, your homes, remove anything of value, especially keys, wallets, and purses, and I'll obviously report any suspicious activity. If you see something, say something. And also, I'm sure others besides myself have been receiving phone calls again with various scams going on. So I know that the police and also myself would just encourage residents, and especially our older residents, that if they get these calls, there's nothing wrong with just saying, I need to get back with you and talk to somebody else about this, and not give out that kind of information, so that you keep yourself safe and your incomes. So appreciate them and all that they do, and grateful that we do have a new officer that is with us. I don't know about the residents, but it's brought a smile to my face to see active police force in our surrounding neighborhoods, and so that they are controlling traffic and speeders and making their presence known. So that makes me happy. That's my report.
Thanks, Councilmember Stoker. And just along that regard, in a conversation I had with Sheriff Ryan Arbon, I asked him what the most important thing a police force can do to keep the city safe. And without any hesitation, he said visibility. When people see your officers on the street, there is a factor of deterrent there. And so thank you for that report. We'll now move on to Councilman Severing, have him report on our Public Works Department, what's going on there, and any concerns the citizens might have. Councilman, before we move there, I just wanted to ask Councilmember Stoker if she's heard anything about the enforcement issue on passing on the right, crossing a solid white line.
Yes, I have.
Councilmember Swanson, he's kind of smiling about that. Once again, just as a reminder, I think our police force is being very compassionate in that regard. And in conversations, I'm not aware of any citations that have been issued. Most of them have been warnings, just to remind the public that we need to be safe as we travel that road. And I think we'll have some further discussion about that a little bit later in we have comments from the council. So
Also just a thing on the with, again, traffic and safety. I was pulling out of Lee's the other day onto Washington, or waiting for my turn to make that, right-hand turn. And there was a vehicle in front of me, decided that they didn't want to do that and made the left-hand turn. So once again, signage does not always work.
okay, thank you. Okay, Councilman Severing.
First off, I just wanted to express appreciation. Dave Espinoza and the men and the women over at the Public Works work really diligently to take care of the city and the citizens. He wanted me to mention, and many people in the city are probably aware of this, but they're beginning the process of being prepared for the expansion up 450. They've started to cut down the trees on the east side of 450. Once that's completed, they're going to put in the sewer. Man, I can never remember what this is an acronym for. Sewer, water, stormwater, something like that. But they're going to be putting them in place very soon. And then the city workers will begin cutting into the asphalt. I think it's awesome that Dave notes here on this text. Please let everyone know that we have posted on the website and on Facebook. I'm not sure, I'm assuming Dave is actually on, I think. Dave, are you there?
Councilmember, let me just move him over real quick, just a moment.
Okay. But Dave let me know that they actually have a hotline number that, and I don't know the number. That's why I'm asking Dave if he can give us more details. But on the North Ogden website and on the Facebook page, and I'm not sure, that's one thing that we need to work on, is we have too many Facebook pages with the cities with the name North Ogden City. So I'd sure like to kind of pare those down some. Dave, are you on yet?
Yes, sir. So those are on our official Facebook pages, on Public Works Facebook and the city's Facebook page.
Okay.
And the number and an email that are both there too. You know, if there's anybody that has any concerns or questions whatsoever, they can go on there and ask.
Okay, excellent, Dave. For anybody that's driven 450, we know that the work is began. So we appreciate all that the Public Works Department is doing to make sure that this is a successful venture with this widening. So Dave, did I miss anything, my friend?
No, sir. I think that's the gist of it. As far as the UDOT portion, the intersection itself most of the work will start on March 8th. And we'll, like Councilman Severin said, we will just make sure that everybody stays up to date. We will make sure that, that we will post on the website and, on the different pages that any kind of progress or any changes that are going to happen.
And let me just say one thing to commend Dave, and I know that there were other individuals I'm sure involved, but I think it was a week ago, this last Friday night, I was coming home from an appointment. It was probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And we'd had a water leak on 450. And who did I see walking through all the water? None other than the famous Dave Espinoza. And I think that just shows his incredible commitment to make sure that the city and the citizens are well taken care of. I'm sure there were other public works individuals there, but the first person I saw there was Dave Espinoza. So Dave, thank you for all that you're doing to help the city and the citizens.
Thanks, Blake.
Councilman Severing, anything else to report?
Nope, that's all.
If I could just briefly add, I know there's been a lot of snow lately and the crews worked hard, long hours, and appreciate their efforts to keep our streets clear. And appreciate their response to some of the cul-de-sacs in the city that were getting piled up with snow. Literally went and hauled some of the snow off. We're grateful for the moisture, but it does precipitate a lot of calls when it snows. But Dave, please pass on to your crew our appreciation for their commitment and extra effort. And
thank you for mentioning that, Mayor. I neglected that. Thank you.
No problem. All right, let's move on to Council Member Ekstrom, who will report to us on Parks and Recreation. And perhaps the most exciting thing is we have a new little girl in the Parks and Recreation Department. Is that correct?
Yes, that was actually what I was going to lead out with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That we can't celebrate a newborn baby's arrival too much, I don't think. So Lindy Ruth Staley was born 2 weeks ago, and she weighed 7 pounds and 14 and a half ounces, and she's 19 and a half inches long. And I don't know if John, she sent you a picture. I've got one on my phone, which I absolutely don't know how to share it, but this is Lindy Ruth. Isn't she adorable? We're so excited for her. And of course, Tiffany is still not missing a beat. She's still answering emails and texts and coming along. So what's going on with Parks and Rec now is that we have like softball, baseball, and kickball and t-ball registrations beginning. They will start March 1st. And then also March 1st is opening up our seasonal positions for Parks and Rec. So that's kind of the main things going on. We also are having a meeting with the Arts Guild. It's going to get going. We've got a meeting scheduled for Friday afternoon. And we're going to start developing some subcommittees so that we can get working on getting the arts going. And I'm excited about that. One of the things that is on everybody's mind right now is Cherry Days. Just, you know, my personal position, and this is just my personal position, I would like to see the parade stay on 2600 North. I know there has been some concern about that, but again, this is something we're going to try. It might be an unqualified disaster, I don't know, but I think it's worth giving it a try for a year. I would like to see it televised, not necessarily, I mean, we've got our YouTube channel, right? We don't own a station, but I would like to see the option, especially with COVID, to have it be a smaller event with the option to have residents be able to view it from their homes. I also would really love to see us continue with the fair, you know, having all of the booths and things. Just again, my personal position is that, you know, we let residents manage their own risk at some level. So again, and mostly why I want to think about that now is because it requires a lot of planning. So we need to make the decision about what we're going to do. So that's just my input there. Another thing that I would think we would like to consider that I probably should have brought up with the budget discussion is the possibility of hiring a grant writer. I know Scott Barker has brought this up on numerous occasions in planning kind of things in his residential input when he comes on to city council. But I think that may be a really good idea, especially where we've got projects that we're looking to have outside funding to do, the amphitheater in particular. But there are a lot of grants available. And if we have someone who is familiar with where to look for those and then how to write them well so that our city is more likely to get them. So that's pretty much all I've got.
Okay, thank you for your report. And please let us know how the Arts Guild goes.
Okay.
So, okay. We'll now go to item number 12 on our agenda, which is public comments. And Katie, if you would watch and let us know if we have any further public comments.
Mayor, we have Brenda Ashdown that would like to make a comment.
Welcome back, Brenda.
Thank you. Brenda Ashdown, 193 East Pleasant View Drive. I don't know if the police chief is listening tonight. Sometimes he is. I thought this might be the fastest way to get what I consider important information. At the crosswalk on Pleasant View Drive and 400 East, I have taken my grandson to school a couple of days, and I noticed that the cars heading south on Washington, they are not going 20 miles an hour. And I wonder if maybe occasionally there could be a police officer that might drive by or sit there and be a little bit visible as far as the traffic slowing down to that 20 miles an hour in a school cross zone. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stoker, if you would pass that on to, or John on to, looks like Chief Quinney's actually with us tonight, so he probably heard that.
But if not, I'll tell him.
Looks like he just came off of mute. Chief, did you have something to say?
Oh, I think somebody unmuted me, but I'm happy to say something. We actually have an officer that monitors that specific crosswalk and does a great job and seeing that you know, as much time as can be spent is spent there. So we are watching it. So thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Chief.
Mayor Susan Kilborn has a comment.
All right, let's hear from Susan, and if she'd state her name and address and keep within our 5-minute limit, we'd appreciate it.
Are you there?
We're there. Are you?
No, I'm gone.
Okay,
3370 North, 400 East in Lakeview Heights, North Ogden. And hi, y'all. How you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just got through feeding my handsome husband, and so now I'm ready to unload on you.
Let's hear it.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that my husband and I live on a cul-de-sac, and for so many years we were neglected in snow removal and other issues, pothole fixing. And North Ogden City has just been stellar over this stuff lately. In fact, when we had the snowstorm just recently, my neighbor's cat, who is not very smart, was out in the middle of the street when the truck came up. And do you know that that individual got out of the truck and chased Kitty out of the way so Kitty wouldn't be buried in the snow? So kudos for the, I don't know how many millionth time I've said it, to our Public Works Department. They are stellar.
Thank you. It's very kind.
Okay. Second thing is, I don't think that North Ogden City taps the human resources they have in their community to become involved with city issues. North Ogden is made up of a lot of professional people. Some of them right now are either retiring or maybe working from home because of COVID. And there's a great brain function out there that I think that if some way we could tap some of these individuals, like I would like to see more women involved in North Ogden City's day-to-day operations and decisions that are being made. So I'm just throwing that out there. I am a female, by the way. Another thing, and this is not going to be popular with a lot of people, but I know what our situation is and how much in debt we are for many things that have transpired. And I don't want to rain on everybody's parade, but do we really, really need to have cherry days? Now is the time to decide. If we don't have it for just 1 year, how much money will that open up for us to put in areas where it might be needed more? And I believe that if it's properly presented to our community, that everyone will understand that accommodations have to be made for not only our budget, but then there are COVID concerns. So I would like to know what each council member thinks about that, if that's okay.
How about if we put that on as an agenda item? I think Councilmember Ekstrom said we do need to address that issue and make a decision. It might be better, Susan, to have that on the next agenda, so the public's aware we're going to be discussing that. And as I've got in the habit of doing, and Councilman Swanson smiles when I do this, I seem to call on the council members to get their input so that I know how they're thinking. So would that be okay?
Oh, yeah, that would be fine. I would just ask that it be presented in the way that if you were thinking of this from your own pocketbook and that you were being faced with debts that are oncoming for years to come, and there is something that is of entertainment value that is really not a necessity, like, in my opinion, the Public Works building, I think we ought to lay it out to the community and see what they think. I think that maybe we might find that people are a lot more understanding about skipping tradition for 1 year for the good for future years. And that's just how I feel about that.
Of course, you know that we did bypass everything last year. And our discussion thus far has been maybe some type of modified approach to Cherry Days, where we can have the community celebrate a very important event, but not be overly extravagant in the time of a pandemic. I know that we're all big people and we can make our decisions, but I do believe that our citizens look at us as setting the lead. And when we do that, we sponsor events, but we will have a discussion on that. We'll put that on the agenda for next meeting because I know that decisions have to be made on that. I think we've made decisions on most things other than the actual Cherry Days at the park. And Susan, a lot of the money that's spent on Cherry Days, not everything, does come from contributions. But we can also discuss that budget of what Cherry Days budget is. That ought to be part of our discussion, and we'll go at it for next meeting. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate that you and the city council are willing to thinking outside the box for the overall good. And maybe there are alterations that can be made that can cut the funding of things. Every penny counts, as we all know. And then I just have one more thing. The letter that the city council is proposing to send to Governor Cox, I would like to see that exact letter also goes to our local Utah Senator, Mr. Senator John Johnson. I believe that he needs to read that as well. And I would also like to see the city extend officially an invitation to him to attend our city council meetings, considering that many of his constituents are located right here in North Ogden City. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks for joining us this evening. Appreciate it. Katie, we have other members of the public who'd like to comment?
Not at this time, Mayor. Oh, we just had a hand pop up. We have a comment from Sean Heiner.
All right, let's hear from Sean Heiner.
Hi there, Mayor. I appreciate the time. Sean Heiner, 681 East, 2600 North. I know there has been some discussion about the parade on 2600 North, and Councilmember Ekstrom, I know that you're excited to try to have the parade on this street, but there are a lot of concerns that I feel that are not being addressed as far as safety concerns. Having been in the parade with our fire truck over the years on Washington Boulevard, we stopped doing the North Ogden Parade due to several concerns that could lead to possible insurance claims, lawsuits, all kinds of problems. By moving this to 2600 North, you are going from I know it's a steep drop from Alberta down to 2600 North, but if you drive down 1050 East, as I stated in my email that I sent all of you, you can kick your car into neutral and travel west from 1050 East all the way to Washington Boulevard. Driving a heavy truck like our fire truck on a route like that, we would have to ride the brakes the entire way. I know there's lots of heavy vehicles that are in the parade, lots of horse wagons. You are going to have some difficulty, and if anybody's brakes overheat and lose control, you've got a crowd that the only way to stop it is to run into the crowd or to run into whatever's in front of them. The other concern I have is trying to see the parade. If you sit on the south side like I'm on and try to look east, there are a lot of trees, bushes in the way, and a lot of kids like to see what's coming in the parade. So they are going to wander into the street, which is now much more narrow than what Washington Boulevard is. And even on Washington Boulevard, kids will wander out into the second lane of traffic, which is narrowing the parade route down quite a bit. The police does a great job trying to keep traffic back, but they can't they can't keep a crowd that size back. I really think there needs to be a consideration to reconsider something like 3100 North, where we've had parades like Weber High School's homecoming. Just seems like it's a little bit wider, a little bit safer, less objects in the way. I just think there are some concerns there that is not really being concerned, because I feel like the city council has their mind made up on what they want to do instead of really looking at all the aspects. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Mayor, we have Stephanie Casey would like to make a comment.
Okay, let's hear from Stephanie Casey.
Hi, Stephanie Casey, 2444 Barker Parkway. I'm making a second comment, sorry. Just with the discussion of the parade, I would also like to express my concern. I haven't heard anything about any kind of a crowd safety study. I feel this would probably be something that we would need. As I drive down 2600, it concerns me. Especially after being able to participate in the parade last year. One of the things I heard mentioned was parking and church parking. I know that when discussion of using the church parking for the amphitheater, the church put up barriers to block it off, because that puts them at a liability. So I'm not sure, if we have permission, or are we just assuming we can park there? But I just, I'm not saying that it can't be on 20. I'm not saying, hey, it shouldn't be. I'm concerned at the whole, we'll just see. And if it works, great. This is huge crowds of our community, possibly. A crowd safety study would certainly tell us a lot. If it's safe, how to do this safe, how to move people through, where they can park. I just see it a little bit as a little bit of a bigger issue than just, try and fail or succeed. The parade's pretty big. It draws in big crowds. It will draw in big crowds. So that's just my thoughts on that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Katie, do you see anyone else?
Not at this time, Mayor.
We'll just give a few seconds to see if somebody chimes in, has any further comments. Once again, I'm, whether we agree or disagree, I really appreciate the participation from our citizens. I'd like to see more participation, and we know that we do the best we can in analyzing things, but we also know we don't know everything. So what's the old statement? We don't know what we don't know. Something of that nature. Anything else, Katie?
Not at this time.
All right. Well, if not, we'll move on then to item number 13 on our agenda, which is the council, mayor, and staff reports. And let's start with the council this evening. Council, do you have anything you've heard from the citizens we need to address? Any suggestions? Anything you'd like to have on a future agenda, or having a start to think about? Councilman Swanson, I saw you unmuted quite quickly, so let's go to you.
Well, I just want to get through it so that Cheryl won't yell at me. Councilwoman Stoker, or some of the others that want to go to bed. A couple of things. One, on House Bill 98, I just checked on the House site, and the standing committee hearing for that bill is tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. So if you go on to the utah.gov site, you can go to the House and it'll direct you to the Zoom meeting that will be that standing committee meeting. You can voice your opposition there in person through chat or raising your hand like we do here. But that, again, is tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. In Capitol Room 445.
Thank you.
So that's that. Talking about some of the concerns with Pleasant View Drive, I just wanted to respond a little bit. I don't think our other council members are still on the meeting, but we've talked about this for nearly 2 years. It's not something new. It's been talked about a number of times. Mayor, as you mentioned, it's been on the master plan since 2015. We've been working with the dentist and also with the veterinarian to make sure that they're taken care of. We've looked at many different designs, right in, right out, all kinds of things. What I haven't heard from Pleasant View City Council so far is something to consider that we haven't already considered multiple times and in multiple ways. I'd love to hear what they would suggest, but I don't think we need to spend a lot of time rehashing things that we've hashed over for the last 2 years in taking a look at this thing. And I'm curious a little bit with Council Member Marriott, where the Pleasant View boycotters are going to shop and how they're going to get there. I think we're the closest shopping stores around. I guess they could come to 300 East and turn left onto 2600 and then go down to Walmart or something along those lines. But I was a little bothered by his comments. Also wanted to make note too for everybody that the county commission meeting today lasted a total of 9 minutes. They were very efficient and very fast. It was quite something to tune in and almost not make it because you're just a couple minutes late.
Is that a hint, Phil?
It's not a hint. Cheryl knows that. I'm happy.
Did you take good notes?
all they did was approve some expenditures and then adjourn the meeting. They had nothing else to do. And then lastly, I've spoken, Mayor, to you and to John and to David Espinoza and to Lauren and each council member to be thinking about the possibility of restriping 2600 for a year period of time in a trial to see how having a center dual turn lane and left turn lanes at the various intersections, eliminating on-street parking and shifting the lanes to the north and to the south, what that does for congestion, traffic flow, what effects it has on residents that are there, businesses that are on the street that are a little bit further down. Anyone have any comments? Well, now's not the time for that. I'll just bring it up. I've had some of you comment back. Does anyone object to having this on a council meeting in the near future as an agenda item?
I think it's worth addressing because I believe that once this intersection is widened and it goes from 2 lanes and turn lanes down to 1 at 475, we're going to have a major backlog there. So I think we've got to look at something to relieve. Anytime you go, all of us have driven for a long time, anytime you go from 2 lanes down to 1 or 3 lanes down to 2, it's not pretty. So let's at least study it and get some information and see what we can do. I think we have to be open to looking at those type of things. You look at what it would cost to widen 2600 and the effect it would have on residents along that street, nearly impossible. And that's part of the problem I think we face. Our city was not designed to grow so quickly and have limited arteries to travel on. So we've got to do something to do that. So I would say, yeah, let's talk to the engineer. Let's start gathering some data and some input. And I think there's some merit to it.
Okay, John, Katie, if you'll put that on a meeting upcoming, that would be very much appreciated. And I think that's all the comments I have. Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you, Councilman Swanson. Councilman Barker, did you unmute on purpose?
Yes.
Let's hear from you this evening.
I got additional concerns as well with Pleasant View Drive. Have we heard from UDOT? Did we get approval for a light on 300 East? I asked you earlier today, Mayor. You said no.
My response is that the closure of that street was conditional based upon the ability to get a light at 300 East and 2600. I spoke with John, I can't remember if it was yesterday, probably was, asking him to pursue that to see what it would take, because it would have to be a coordinated effort. The last thing we want to do is create an intersection that's more unsafe than the one we've got. So I think we all understand, unless I miss something, that the closure would be conditional upon getting the light.
I would hope that that gets put out to the public, that it is conditional upon a light, not we're going to close the intersection and then hope to get a light in the future, because that just seems like a problem to me.
Did I miss something, John? Or I thought it was based upon the condition of getting a light.
UDOT has said that we'll have a light at 300 East as soon as traffic conditions warrant it.
Correct, but are we gonna close an intersection and hope we warrant it, or?
Well, I think we can. I talked to John about getting a projected study, because I think we can see how much traffic comes along there, and pro forma how much would go down 300 East, and work with UDOT, because I do think it has to be a kind of a coordinated effort. So that's the approach we're taking.
And I agree. And in my experience in my position at work, I noticed how quick UDOT works. And that's my concern right now, is that they may not get on this as soon as we want it to be done.
Well, John has the assignment, unless I was dreaming or something. John, you and I talked about that. Was it yesterday?
Yes. We're still waiting to reach out to UDOT and get our cards in a row to make sure we're talking to them about the right question, if that makes sense.
Hey, Councilman Barker, while you're on the floor here, while you have the floor, how would you get to my home during the parade if I had a medical emergency?
So that's a good question.
I just had that thought, because I am old, and that can happen.
Well, you're going to be in the parade, so you'll be right at the front, right behind the fire engine. So it'd be real quick, easy to get to you.
Good answer.
Now that we have 2 fire stations, we have gone to in the last, I think it's been 2 years or less, we are no longer putting every one of our fire apparati, if that's the proper plural term, in the parades. We put half of them in and we leave half of them out. So when Pleasant View has their parade, our main station down here in North Ogden doesn't go up into Pleasant View. We stay in service and they run calls. And so when North Ogden's in the parade, our Pleasant View station will be monitoring our calls. And so actually they'd come down from the hill. So we get it. And even if there was an emergency, if it was a bad emergency, like, was it not last year, 2 years ago, we had a parachuter come down during a parade and his chute didn't open all the way. Or no, it was a hang glider or paraglider, whatever. We're right at the front of the parade and we get out real quick.
What street would you come down from the hill?
We'd go over to, let's see, you take 40.
I'm just trying to make a point here, because
right. You go.
I think that's one thing we don't often think about, is the quickness of our first responders, including our police department. When there's an emergency, how quickly they get there and what an important service that is to our community. But I just want to make sure that we are not creating an unsafe situation for medical emergencies. I just had that thought come to my mind, and I know you guys are all surprised I had a thought come to my mind, but it did.
And actually, during a parade, we have a second ambulance. When it went down Washington, we'd have them staffed at Big O Tires in that area. So if something happened east of Washington, they can go up 1700. And it's the same way if the parade's coming down 2600, we may have them stay at the station. And if something happened up on the hill, they'd go up 2100 or up 1050 or up 3100. We'll get around.
Okay, I'll crawl down to 2100 to meet you there.
No, you're right behind the ambulance. We just got to hit the brakes and we'll pick you up.
All right. Anything else, Councilman Barker?
Yes, I had one more thought during our meeting tonight. We appointed a new member to the Economic Development Committee. We need to appoint possibly a new member to the General Plan Steering Committee. Don Waite's no longer on the planning commission, and I don't know if you last meeting he said he didn't know if he'd stay on the general plan steering committee or if we'd appoint a new planning commissioner. So it's just something that we need to think about.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Don, and he's actually building a new home outside the city. So he's asked that we do appoint someone differently. So would you take that assignment to get a recommendation from the planning commissioner, chairman, to someone that would serve there?
Okay, will do. That's all I have.
All right. Councilman Severing, I see you're unmuted. Did you have any comments this evening?
Yeah, I was just going to mention two things really quick, Mayor. You know, I haven't come to a complete decision on the Pleasant View Drive issue yet myself. I guess in my mind, I see that what the Pleasant View City Council is saying has a lot of merit. I think if we were on the receiving end of a decision that they were rendering, we would want to be able to at least have some really good open discourse about impact and so forth. So I would like to see us do that with them. And then independent of anybody else, I have maybe since the beginning of our discussion about the parade, I've been a little nervous about 2600 only because of its narrowness. And obviously I appear to be in the minority, but I would like to go on record saying that I am concerned about safety. I think it's going to be easier on 2600 if a kid runs out. There's just not a wide street there for safety issues. And quite honestly, I would rather not be the city council. And if something like that were to happen, that said that perhaps we should have rethought that decision. So again, independent of any other person, I'm considering a change for that, but that obviously is on the balance of the council to make that decision. That's all.
Well, surely we're going to have to prohibit the fire department from throwing candy since they have weak arms and it just falls out of the window. And so most likely we might have to address the situation of having candy in the parade at a minimum. Anybody else have the concerns that Councilman Severing has that hasn't spoken up? Councilman Barker, you're shaking your head.
I've had the same thoughts about our parade route. We're as I mentioned earlier, we're in the parade for Pleasant View on Pleasant View Drive, where it goes down the roundabout and heads west. Pleasant View Drive's a 2-lane road with a center median, and it's pretty tight. 2600 is a 2-lane road with no center median, so it's a shorter, narrower road, and we get bigger crowds than Pleasant View does. It's just something to think about. We are going into a narrower road with bigger crowds.
Okay, we'll give it some thought, and you know, it is, well, I'll just leave it at that. But sometimes, you know, making definitive decisions is important, and you know, doing our homework in advance and making sure we've addressed all the issues. So, Councilmember Ekstrom, is that you with your mute button off?
I did take my mute button off. No, there's no perfect route, you know, and what I'm looking at is, you know, and it's the same issue that I had with Pleasant View City coming in and second guessing all of our deliberations. It's like, okay, have you gone back and looked at everything that we discussed? You know, it's all of the things that they brought up. It's like we did consider all of those things. Now, are we going to make a perfect decision? No, we're not. But I think, you know, for the last, at least 2 or 3 years, you know, having 2600 be the route was was considered among all of the other ones that were available. It's not perfect. No, it's a narrow road. We may need to look at limiting even the number of entrants, or having some sort of stipulation is like, have you tested your brakes going down it? You know, there are definitely things that we can do. I'm not opposed to looking at another route, but just every other route we're going to choose is going to have problems with it. I haven't thought about 3100. I don't know if that was discussed. That was before I was on the council and thinking about it, but that is a wider road and also has access points. So that's, you know, I don't know, but that's something that we can definitely consider. But I think it really would be, you know, good if everybody that wanted to have input actually went back and looked at our deliberations. We did them over quite a long while. We discussed a lot of things. So before you go second guessing, please go look and see what we've already discussed. So that's kind of just my general, please be informed before you come and like say, you should do something different.
Okay, thanks, Councilmember Ekstrom. I would say that just to add on to your comments, I hope none of us think we're going to make perfect decisions all the time. Our job is to make the best decision with the information we have. I think that's what's important, that we seek to make the best decision. I remember an address that was given about good, better, and best. And our goal is to try to make the best decisions that we can, and understanding that none of them will be perfect. I do believe the one thing that is different from when the deliberations probably took place, and I expressed that before, is the pandemic. And I was hoping that everything would be really peachy by July 3rd. But as I read more and more, they're saying that this pandemic is going to continue to involve social distancing. And you know, that's my concern is, do we have enough room to provide adequate safety to our citizens? That's, as you know, I get stuck on safety, and I understand if people don't think we're providing safety, they don't have to come, but I think we just do the best we can. So Councilmember Stoker, I see that you're anxious. You're almost coming through that camera. So let's hear from you.
I know you've all waited for my last words. I agree with what you said, Mayor. We've always talked about safety. That's always been our number one concern in mostly every decision we make. And regardless of whether we like it or not, 2600 is a narrow street. And we do have a lot of people, and candy's always been a problem, even on wide streets. So I think with that in mind, with safety, we really do need to have a really good discussion on if that's the best way or not. And then also, I think that I brought it up before, but I really do think we should probably take steering out of the committee, the steering committee, and use another word.
I think we talked about advisory committee.
Yeah.
So
I think that needs to be done.
okay.
And also, if we're going to have a discussion on the striping of 2600, I think definitely the police chief needs to be in there. I'm sure he would be, but he wasn't mentioned, but for sure.
Yeah. Once
And
again,
that's all.
yeah. I think just the thought that has come into my mind, and I believe we're making great progress on that, is to really research, be prepared, and get our data. And then when we make those decisions, to try to stick with them. But I think the question is, did we do that in some of these instances? I believe we've done a pretty good job of researching. I do believe that since the original decision was made, we do have some curveballs that have been thrown at us on the 2600. And once again, just because we're willing to listen, for instance, with our friends from Pleasant View, I think it's just being respectful to hear what they have to say. That doesn't mean we're going to change our mind, but like I say, we don't know what we don't know. And I think Phil pointed out we did a lot of research. We looked at the right-hand turn only. We looked at a lot of things. We've talked to the folks there, but if we've missed something, bring it to our attention. If not, I think we've done our due diligence, but let's hear what they have to say. And once again, I think what hasn't been addressed in that issue is the fact that we need additional park space. And part of our plan was, if you look at that, is to expand that park and make it a place that's welcoming to our citizens. That park needs a lot of work. And it's one that needs to be well taken care of and be something that our citizens can appreciate. So once again, you've heard me say this many times. I don't necessarily have to agree with people, but I try to respect their position and what they have to say. And it's like I tell my grown kids now, all I'm doing is giving you advice. You can do with it what you want. They know I'm done making decisions for them. So anything else this evening? John, let's hear from staff. Then we'll adjourn the meeting after we hear from staff.
Over to the staff. Mayor,
pardon?
Can I jump in before we turn it over to staff?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Severing.
I would just recommend, if there's some thought in council's minds about maybe changing the venue for the parade, that maybe we take the next week, do some additional thinking. Could we get this on the agenda for next Tuesday?
Once again, the council member can make a request and get anything. I think it used to be 2 council members, but I think it's just 1 now. So if a council member wants to put that on the agenda, we have a work session, I think, next Tuesday. I think we've had 3 council members express a desire to at least have some further conversation. I understood council member Stoker, Barker, and Severing, they'd like to have at least some further discussion. So I think the answer to that would be yes. Okay, John?
Yeah, just a few things by way of information. The curtains that the council purchased for the amphitheater are being hung. Just so you're aware, we also have another question from a resident up in the Cove who would like to utilize a driveway or one of those asphalt patches that we have. This one's a little different. They have already been utilizing it. They actually poured some asphalt over and connected it to their driveway. But that'll be coming. I told them we need a letter from the to the council, and so we can start that discussion. And then just as you think of things with budgets, with one thing we are going to ask for all of you to do as you work with your various teams is to actually try and do the detailed review with those individual teams, as opposed to the council meeting, so that when we come to the council meeting, we're talking about the things we have questions about. Instead of going line by line, we just are trying to make it more meaningful for everyone involved, and make it so that this may sound funny to say we're going to go into less detail, but I'm trying to make it more palatable for the residents so they have a chance to look at the thing and come with questions and not be discussed ad nauseum line by line. So that's one of the things I'd like to focus on this year if we can. So,
well, John, and I think if I could make a recommendation that prior to any budget discussions, that's reviewed with Councilman Swanson, so that perhaps he can give the Reader's Digest viewer the executive overview. We surely want to be transparent, but we want to be efficient and effective and I think in the way we present things has a great deal to do with it. So I don't know, Councilman Swanson, would you be willing to do that?
You bet. I'll just start out with no soup for you. Absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you.
And it looks like Chief Quinney has a comment for us. That was all I had, Mayor.
Okay, let's hear from Chief Quinney.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Regarding the parade route, this will be my 26th Cherry Days, and every year it's the same concern that comes before and after is the safety of the kids that are chasing the candy. And as long as we're throwing candy, I'll just reiterate the importance of a barrier. And I know it's not been, it's expensive, whether we use police tape or physical barriers. Somehow, if we can create a barrier and to create a physical line that the crowd cannot go past, that in my mind is going to create a safe parade. And our officers, including we bring in Ogden City, Weber County, South Ogden, Riverdale, they come in and help us try and keep that crowd back, and it's impossible. So instead of, if we had a physical barrier, we could utilize the same personnel to scoot candy beyond the barrier so the kids can get it, rather than try and keep kids out from under a tire. And this has been our same point year after year. And I know there's an objection because it probably would be fairly expensive to create that barrier, but I honestly think that's the only way we're going to do it. Whether we do it on 2600 or on Washington, either way.
I guess the other alternative is not to allow candy in the parade.
And that's a suggestion we've made several, year after year, and obviously it hasn't been popular.
Okay, well, we'll look at it, Chief, and thank you for your comments. That's really an important comment. I remember the parade one year where a young kid went right underneath a flatbed trailer that was moving, and scared the living daylights out of me. And so we do want to make sure we're safe to the best we can. And once again, appreciate the council's input, your time, your commitment. Just another thought that fled into my mind is, when we make these decisions, it affects our staff. As Councilmember Ekstrom said, time is kind of compressing against what we're going to do. And it's not just the parade route, but I think it's the other things we need to, when we make these decisions, and if we reverse them or vice versa, it does have effects, but we want to make the best decision we can. Gratefully, we have good staff that's adaptable. So, okay, well, with that, I don't want to have any fist fights between Councilmember Stoker and others. So, Councilmember Stoker, do you have a motion for us to adjourn?
Of course, motion to adjourn.
All right. Do we have a second for that motion made by Councilmember Stoker?
I'll second it.
Thought we have a motion and a second. Does anyone object to adjourning this meeting this evening? Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.